Hello, welcome back to Crafty Not Shifty. Now, I know I don't usually upload a video on a Thursday, but it's time for another creative arts collaboration, and this month's hashtag is Love Fall Art. So again, we have the same categories as usual, so if you want to search using the hashtag Love Fall Art, and then any one of these categories that you can see flying past on the screen now, so multimedia, cards, scrapbooking, it's all there. So I'm going to be making a card today using the stitched grand maple die from Simon Says Stamp. This was released as part of their STAMPtember release, so it's a limited edition die. So if you want to purchase one of these dies, you'll have to head over to Simon Says Stamp as quick as possible. I'm going to be embossing the edges of this plain white piece of paper, so I'm using my Versamark ink pad and I'm just swiping that along each of those edges. I just want to get some of the clear sticky ink stuck around each of those edges, and I'm not being too neat or too careful as to how I apply this. Because I'm coming straight from the ink pad, there will be some kind of corners and edges, but that's okay. I'm going to fix them up after I've applied the embossing powder by using a dry paintbrush. So I'm just swiping that along all four sides, and then I'm going to take the embossing powder, which is the liquid platinum embossing powder by Ranger, and I've got mine in a little tub here, and I use a spoon to spoon that on. So it's, in theory, helps with creating a mess all over your card space. So I have these small tubs for the powders that I don't use so often, and for the powders that I use quite often, I keep those in a larger tub. So I'm just spooning that right round all the edges, and you can see there that it has left some kind of corner marks from the ink pad, but that's okay. I'm going to tidy that up. I also didn't use an anti-static powder tool for this. I want the edges to be really raw and rough, so I don't mind if some of the embossing powder sticks where usually you wouldn't want it to. So I'm just bringing in this fluffy paintbrush, and I'm just going to swipe away some of the corner edges from the embossing powder before I heat set it, just to make sure that it's more of a, I want a rough edge, but I don't want any angles. I want it to look more, I don't know, more distressed than angular, if that makes sense. So that's just how I wanted it to look. So I'm just tapping off any of that excess and just brushing away any big clumps of powder that are left on the white cardstock. This cardstock is by Simon Says Stamp. And I'm just going to heat that with my heat tool. So I'm just going to melt all of that powder with the heat gun. It's got a really nice kind of gold shimmer to the edge of this plain white note card. I'm making quite a clean and simple card today, so I think that gold really makes it pop, and it just fits perfectly with the fall theme. So I'm holding the leaf in place with a piece of washi tape, and I'm just going to run that through my Sizzix die cutting machine. These dies work perfectly with any die cutting machine, and it cuts just beautifully. It's got a really nice stitched detail that it leaves behind, and also that leaf that pops out is really beautiful. So I'm not using the leaf section. You may have guessed I'm making a shaker card, so I'm going to save that leaf for another project. And I'm going to work now on the card base. I'm going to stick a piece of acetate to the back. I've cut the acetate down to just slightly smaller than the card base, which is 4¼ by 5½. And I'm applying some strong adhesive all around the outside edge of the acetate. I find when working with acetate it's easier to use a dry adhesive like this sticky tape, and I'm just applying a couple of extra bits of tape around the outside of that leaf just to make sure the acetate sticks perfectly. I don't want any of the shaker material to fall out the side when we're shaking the card. So I'm lining that up using my grid paper. I'm just going to press that down to make sure it's stuck really well, and you can see that there's a bit of a kind of almost like a frosting on the acetate. That's just the protective sheet that I can remove now. Okay, so I'm going to apply some dimensional adhesive around the edges of this leaf shape. Now when you've got a really intricate shape like this, I find that it's easiest to cut your foam tape in half across the width and stick it to itself, so you've instantly got a double thickness of the foam tape. And then each time you want to curl and bend the foam tape around your window, just cut a small notch in the foam tape, and that will allow you to bend and shape that around the leaf. Okay, so I've just filled in any of those blank spaces with some other pieces of foam tape, and I'm now going to add some anti-static powder tool to the centre of the leaf. I think this is important because you don't want any of your sequins to stick to the static of the acetate or to the foam tape. So I'm peeling off all of the backing. I'd recommend that you peel the backing off your foam tape before adding your shaker material, because the card will lift up slightly as you're peeling the backing away, and you don't want any of your shaker material to jump out. So as you can see, using that one piece of foam tape around the leaf was definitely much easier when it came to taking off the foam backing. So I've got my sequins in this little storage pot, and I'll link to where I got this from on Amazon, and I'm just sprinkling a few of those in. I do have a bag ready mixed of these sequins, but I just wanted to show you the storage that I use and how that works. So now I'm going to take this bag of pre-mixed sequins and just tip those in. You can see they're sticking a little bit to the static of this plastic bag, and again that just shows how important it is to run the anti-static powder tool along the inside of your shaker card. If you don't have an anti-static powder tool, you can just apply a very small amount of talc or corn flour, I believe works, and just wipe the excess away, and that should work as well. So now I'm just checking that I have enough sequins. I want the sequins to sit down at the stem of the leaf, so when this card is upright you can only just see a peak of the sequins, and it's not until you shake the card that you actually see all of those. So I'm happy with the amount that I've added. It's not too many that you're going to be able to see all of the shaker material when the card's standing up. So I've got my top folding note card. This is, again, it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm just lining that up and centering it on top of the front panel. Obviously when you're sticking down the shaker material, it makes sense to bring the card base to the card front rather than the other way around, because all that shaker material is going to fall out. And so there we go, you can see when the card is upright you can just barely see those sequins, but then when you start to shake the card, all of that beautiful colour starts to appear. And I really like these colours. I think they fit perfectly with the fall theme, or autumn as it's known over here in the UK. It's caused quite a bit of debates with the Creative Arts Collaboration group as to whether or not we should call it autumn or fall, but for me personally I'm quite happy with it being called fall. So just to finish off this card, I'm adding a couple more sequins onto the front panel. I just wanted to make sure that there was still a pop of colour when you had the card upright. And although I really like the surprise of you shaking the card, I want the card front to look interesting enough that someone might pick it up and shake it and discover that there's all these sequins hiding behind the leaf. So I'm applying this with some Ranger Multimedia Matte, and I've just switched the tip of that bottle for a fine line applicator, and I'll make sure I provide a link to that below as well. So this glue is really great for when you're adding sequins. It dries completely matte, so if any of the glue squishes out the side, you're not going to be able to see that on your finished project, which if you're kind of messy like me, I tend to drop my sequins a lot. I do have quick stick pickup tools to help me with this, but usually, as you can see, I just use my fingers. So I'm just adding the glue behind all of these, and then that is the card finished. I hope that you have enjoyed watching. If you have, please do hit the thumbs up button and subscribe so you don't miss any videos from me, and do make sure that you check out some of the other artists in the collaboration as well. All you need to do is search #LoveFallArt, and a whole heap of videos should start to appear from different artists using different mediums of art that have all joined in with this hashtag event. If you just want to see a particular type of art, you can certainly add another hashtag to your search, such as cards, multimedia, scrapbooking, all those different categories that I showed at the start. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.